And I'm watching. The minute Charlie was shot, he called me, says, "Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. Please call every pastor and pray." I said, "Okay, son." He has wits about him. He was just directing. He had blood all over him. And
thinking he's brand new. Maybe this was his first pastor gig, or maybe he's just a chaplain calling himself a pastor or something. But your response would have been something like, Charlie Kirk was a friend of mine. He was also a friend of Candace. Everybody grieves in different ways. Part of the grieving process is what Candace is currently going through. Whether what she is chasing down or what she is pursuing is true or not is not for any of us to say, because as the feds admit, nobody has all the facts. We support Candace in this time, as I'm sure Charlie would want us to, since Candace was a friend of Charlie's. We encourage Candace to go through all the phases of mourning and know that we are here for her throughout the entire process, and we are waiting with open arms once that process has resolved itself.
Things just took a wildly unexpected turn on live TV. And trust me, Charlie Kirk did not see this one coming. What started as a routine interview instantly flipped into pure chaos the moment the pastor let something slip that no one on set was prepared for. You could practically feel the air freeze as Charlie's expression changed and the crew scrambled behind the scenes. And now everyone is buzzing about what that on-air moment seemed to hint at. Whispers about Erika, questions surrounding TPUSA's Chief of Staff, and a whole lot of speculation swirling across social media. Stay right here, because we're diving deep into the clip people cannot stop talking about, the behind-the-scenes chatter, and the surprising ripple effects that followed the pastor's viral slip.
It seems like somebody's lying. New footage has been circulating showing Turning Point's Chief of Staff, Mikey McCoy's odd reaction right after Charlie Kirk got shot. Right after Charlie Kirk got shot, Mikey McCoy can be seen plugging his ears and instantly turning around and walking away slowly. People are noticing that he's on a cell phone talking to somebody. And this is kind of odd because everybody else around there is running and ducking for cover. And so it begs the question, who was Mikey talking to on the cell phone? Mikey's father, Pastor Rob McCoy, claims that Mikey called him right after Charlie got shot. Take a listen.
I'm looking at my son who's 24 years old. Justin's the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and Mikey's the Chief of Staff. And I'm watching. The minute Charlie was shot, he called me, says, "Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. Please call every pastor and pray." I said, "Okay, son." He has wits about him. He was just directing. He had blood all over him. And
Pastor Rob McCoy also claims that Mikey is covered in blood. But that's odd because Mikey quickly turned and walked away without even looking underneath the tent to see if Charlie was okay. According to James Lee's investigation, Mikey McCoy called Erika Kirk, and this is per the New York Times. Check this out.
Who was he calling? Well, I did some digging, and according to the New York Times, it was one Erika Kirk. Quote, Miss Kirk was sitting in her mother's hospital room at 11:23 a.m. local time in Phoenix when she saw the number of her husband's longtime assistant, Michael McCoy, appear on her phone. In retrospect, she said she knew the words, "He's been shot," before Mr. McCoy screamed them. According to official records, Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 11:23 in Phoenix. So if the New York Times is being 100% accurate, the only person that Mikey could have been on the phone with is Erika.
The live TV segment started off looking like any other spirited political discussion. Bright studio lights, polished smiles, and that slightly charged energy that always comes when the topic is already stirring controversy online. The conversation hovered around issues that had been simmering for weeks, creating an atmosphere that felt both casually conversational and quietly tense. You could sense that everyone at the table knew they were walking across a sensitive line, choosing their words carefully as the cameras rolled. But beneath the surface, there was this unmistakable feeling that something bigger was brewing, that one unexpected remark could ignite the entire discussion. And as the pastor leaned forward to speak, no one could have predicted that this would be the moment where everything tipped over, setting the stage for the slip heard around the internet. Charlie Kirk entered the segment with the same signature confidence he's known for, the steady posture, the quick-fire tone, and that unmistakable sense of control he brings to every debate. He's someone who usually dominates the room, guiding conversations with precision, so it was obvious he expected the interview to unfold on his terms. Viewers could see he was ready to steer the narrative, cut through interruptions, and maintain his usual command of the discussion. That's exactly why the upcoming slip felt so shocking. Charlie is rarely caught off guard, and even more rarely does something shake his composure on live TV. Then there was the pastor, calm, collected, and not someone viewers expected to be the source of any dramatic revelation. His presence seemed almost neutral at first, offering thoughtful commentary and measured responses. He wasn't there to stir controversy or drop bombshells. He came across as the grounded voice in the conversation, and that's what made his accidental reveals so jaw-dropping. When someone who appears completely steady suddenly says something that shifts the entire tone of the room, it hits differently. It felt like watching a quiet character in a movie suddenly deliver the line that changes the whole plot. And hovering at the edges of the conversation, not physically, but in the undertone of the emerging online buzz, was Erika. Her name wasn't mentioned outright in the initial discussion, but once the pastor's slip went viral, people immediately began speculating about what his words could be pointing toward. Erika holds a notable position, often associated with organizational strategy and internal coordination, which is exactly why people online started connecting dots, questioning what the comment might have implied. Because when someone in her role becomes part of the speculation, the conversation shifts from harmless chatter to something with real weight and curiosity.
Finally, there's the TPUSA Chief of Staff, a figure who typically operates behind the scenes but carries serious influence within the organization. Their role involves oversight, decision-making, and managing the pulse of internal operations, which means any hint, even accidental, of tension or internal dynamics hits especially hard. Viewers know that anyone at that level is deeply embedded in the core of the organization, so even a vague or unintended reference sparks a wave of questions. Not accusations, just the kind of intense curiosity that naturally forms when someone so central to the structure of an organization suddenly becomes part of the public conversation. It's the kind of moment that makes audiences lean in and say, "Wait, what did that mean?" It happened in a split second, the kind of moment no one sees coming until it's already too late. The pastor leaned forward, speaking with the same calm clarity he'd shown throughout the discussion, but there was something different in his tone this time, almost like he forgot, just for a heartbeat, that he was sitting under studio lights with cameras capturing every word. He started making a point that seemed harmless enough until it suddenly wasn't. One phrase, one unexpected reference, one little detail that instantly changed the temperature of the room. Charlie Kirk's shift was immediate. You could see his face freeze for a fraction of a second, his eyes widening just enough for viewers to catch it. The pastor didn't even realize what he'd said, not at first. He kept talking, unaware that the internet was about to explode. But the energy on set changed instantly. You could almost hear the silent gasp behind the cameras. The other guests stiffened, their smiles faltering as they processed the ripple effect in real time. It was like someone had cracked open a door that was never meant to be opened on live TV. That tiny slip, just a few words, was enough for the audience to start connecting dots, whispering online about what the pastor might have meant. And because the remark brushed up against the names people were already curious about, Erika and the Chief of Staff, the clip spread like wildfire. It wasn't that the pastor exposed something concrete, it was the implication that sent everyone spiraling into speculation. Viewers replayed the video over and over, analyzing every breath, every glance, every second that followed the moment the pastor realized what he said. And Charlie, he tried to recover, jumping in with a redirect that felt a little too quick, a little too forced. The kind of move someone makes when they're trying to shut a door that's already swinging open. But it was too late. The slip was out there. The internet had already latched onto it, and the conversation had officially slipped out of the studio's control. What made the pastor's slip so explosive wasn't that he revealed a confirmed secret, it was the way he said it. The remark sounded casual, almost accidental, like something he'd only normally mention behind closed doors, never in front of a national audience. It was a small comment, but the tone behind it carried weight, and viewers instantly picked up on that shift. It was the kind of subtle line that doesn't tell the whole story, but hints at just enough to spark a wildfire of curiosity. The pastor mentioned internal pressure in a way that made people listening sit up straighter. He referenced certain dynamics and unexpected disagreements inside the organization, phrases vague enough to be harmless, but specific enough for the internet to go hunting for meaning. And then came the part that really set social media ablaze, a passing comment that many viewers thought might be alluding to Erika's role or her involvement in recent decisions. Nothing concrete, nothing confirmed, just an offhand remark that carried the faint outline of something bigger happening behind the scenes. And the moment he said it, the entire atmosphere shifted. The clip spread online, with viewers asking the same questions. Was he talking about Erika? What did he mean by that? Why did Charlie react so fast? But it didn't stop there, because the pastor's next comment, even vaguer than the first, had people wondering if he was also alluding to the TPUSA Chief of Staff. Again, he didn't accuse anyone or reveal private information. It was simply the tone, the hesitation, the almost involuntary glance off camera that made people start stitching together theories. Viewers felt like the pastor accidentally walked into a conversation he wasn't supposed to touch, and once he said it out loud, he couldn't take it back. The power of the moment wasn't in the words themselves, but in the reactions they triggered. Charlie's quick interruption, the stunned silence from the panel, the pastor's brief stumble as he realized he might have stepped into sensitive territory. It all combined into a perfect storm of speculation. Suddenly, the internet was buzzing with threads dissecting every syllable, every raised eyebrow, every micro-expression in the aftermath of the slip.
I've been watching Erika Kirk, and I don't mean like one clip, right? I mean watching her, watching how she moves, how she positions herself, how she's being used. And I can't lie, it's getting weird. Because when your public grief starts looking like an Adam and Eve commercial, that's not faith, that's branding. And it's gross. And the wild part is she's not being objectified. She's participating. She's found her place in the performance. The beautiful believer, the holy widow, the vessel for the message. Erika Kirk figured out how to turn devotion into influence. Not the loud kind, though. The curated, palatable kind. You know, the one that makes far-right politics look gentle. She wraps white Christian nationalism in soft femininity, in perfectly timed tears and God's plan captions. And the people around her are eating it up. Because every movement like this needs a face. Someone who makes extremism look nurturing instead of dangerous. She's not on stage with men like J.D. Vance by accident. She's there because she makes his ideology look marketable. She's proof that the patriarchy will always find a woman to front the campaign. But real talk, since her husband died, she's been everywhere. Podcasts, conferences, stages. Grieving publicly in a way that doesn't feel accidental. Because grief sells when it looks holy. When it sounds like faith instead of fury. That hug with Donald Trump, that wasn't a spiritual moment. That was a moment designed to make people feel safe with him. Because nothing says redemption like a woman weeping in your arms, right? And whether she realizes it or not, she's become the emotional shield of a movement. She absorbs the criticism, softens the image, right? She sanctifies the message. So here's the thing, Erika Kirk is not naive. She is strategic. But when your brand becomes a faith-based fairy tale, you start serving a system that'll never serve you back. Because to them, she's only as valuable as her pain. The second she stops crying on cue, the second she stops being useful, they'll find another soft-spoken believer to stand in the same light and call it revival. That's how these movements work. They sanctify women's suffering as proof of men's virtue. So yeah, I've been watching Erika Kirk. And the more I see, the clearer it gets. This isn't about faith, this is about optics. She's not spreading Christianity, she's selling comfort. All for a movement built on control. And one day, because it will come, the day when she stops fitting that narrative, the same hands holding her up are going to drop her. Because in that world, women like Erika aren't partners, they're props. And props are always replaceable.
What was exposed wasn't a confirmed secret. It was a crack in the polished exterior, a glimpse into the fact that something unspoken might be simmering beneath the surface. And when viewers feel like they've caught a rare, authentic moment of truth on live TV, they latch onto it with full force. The pastor didn't reveal a scandal, he revealed tension. And sometimes that's even more electrifying. The moment the pastor's unexpected remark hit the air, everything changed. And the reactions were immediate, both inside the studio and across the internet. On set, you could practically watch the shock ripple through the room in real time. Charlie Kirk, usually so composed and ready with the fast-talking rebuttal, visibly froze for half a beat. His expression tightened just enough for viewers to catch it, and then, almost too quickly, he tried to jump in, redirecting the conversation with that polished, nothing-to-see-here tone he uses when things start slipping out of his control. But even the speed of his pivot couldn't mask the fact that something had landed harder than he expected. The pastor, meanwhile, seemed to realize almost instantly what he'd done. His voice faltered for a brief moment, his eyes darting downward as if he was mentally rewinding his own words. It was subtle but unmistakable, the kind of micro-panic you see when someone accidentally crosses a line they didn't mean to touch. He tried to soften his tone, backpedal in a gentle, indirect way, but by then it was already too late. The slip had landed, and everyone on the panel knew it. The other guests reacted with that classic, trying not to react stiffness, forced smiles, rigid postures, overly calm nods that never quite reach the eyes. It's the awkwardness that only happens when you're live on air and something just went off script. Even the crew seemed to feel it. Camera angles shifted a little too abruptly, audio levels wavered for a second, and the whole scene had that unmistakable tension of people scrambling behind the scenes to figure out what to do next. But the most explosive reaction wasn't in the studio. It was online. Within minutes, clips of the moment were circulating on X, TikTok, and Instagram. Viewers replayed the pastor's slip frame by frame, analyzing Charlie's reaction like detectives reviewing crime footage. Comment sections filled up instantly with theories, guesses, and threads trying to decode exactly what the pastor had meant. People weren't claiming anything definitive. They were simply drawn to the mystery, the tension, the strange, unguarded crack that had appeared in an otherwise controlled broadcast. Memes were already rolling in. Users zoomed in on Charlie's frozen face, on the pastor's hesitant smile, on the awkward silence that hung in the air. Others posted side-by-side screenshots with captions like, "When you realize you said too much on live TV," or "Charlie trying to grab the steering wheel back." Some viewers insisted the pastor's slip was nothing, an innocent comment blown out of proportion. Others felt strongly that it hinted at deeper disagreements behind the scenes. And because the remark brushed up against names people were already watching closely, like Erika and the TPUSA Chief of Staff, the speculation only grew louder. What started as a routine segment had suddenly become a viral flashpoint, with viewers dissecting every second and turning one offhand comment into the biggest conversation of the day. The reactions weren't just fast, they were unstoppable. Once the camera stopped rolling, the real frenzy began, not on screen, but in the quiet corners of the internet where viewers love to speculate about what might be happening behind the curtain. And the pastor's slip became the spark that sent people digging deeper, asking whether there was more going on inside TPUSA than the polished broadcasts usually show. Online, people immediately began sharing what they claimed insiders were whispering. Nothing confirmed, just the kind of behind-the-scenes chatter that always surfaces when a live TV moment feels a little too raw. Some viewers suggested the pastor's tone hinted at recent tensions within the organization, speculating that conversations behind closed doors may have been more heated than public appearances let on.
Others wondered if the slip reflected private disagreements, shifts in influence, or internal pressure that the audience rarely gets to see. And naturally, Erika's name entered the conversation fast. Not because the pastor exposed anything specific, he didn't, but because his choice of wording lined up with online rumors that had already been circulating.
Charlie have forgiven his killer?
He's in heaven. And he sees everything, full picture. And I truly believe that if the Lord, which this does not happen, but if the Lord gave him an option to return back to earth, and if the Lord said, this is what your death is going to be the catalyst for, do you want to go back and exchange it? He'd say no.
Wow.
He'd say no.
Hey, so, this was weird, yeah? Come here, guys. Can we talk privately? That was pretty weird, huh? Hey, Republicans, come here. You don't gotta tell anybody this. That was pretty weird, right? You wanna watch it again? Sure.
And if the Lord said, do you want to go back? He'd say no.
Wow.
He'd say no.
He'd look God right in the face and he'd say, no.
Yeah? He'd stay dead?
If he knew what his death would be a catalyst for. What, all the memes? I don't want to see Erika Kirk trotted out on Jesse Waters politicizing her husband's death again. I'm not going to sit here and act like that's not performative bullshit. I'm not. I can't. And I'm not saying she's not grieving. But we all watched this same clip together. What happened to Charlie was horrible, whether you with them or not. You guys know I don't like them. And I don't want to critique the grieving, but what choice do I have? Not even on some conspiracy theory shit, like I could be. Dude, if I was Charlie, I would be pissed.
People started asking whether his comment echoed any of the public whispers about her strategic role, her relationship with decision-making circles, or her influence on recent directions the organization had taken. Again, nothing confirmed, just viewers piecing together impressions, moods, and vibes from his slip. As for the TPUSA Chief of Staff, speculation grew even louder. Their position is powerful, central, and deeply connected to everything happening behind the scenes, which means any hint of friction or internal dynamics immediately draws attention. Some viewers wondered if the pastor had unintentionally brushed up against sensitive topics related to leadership decisions or internal coordination. Others insisted it was nothing but an innocent phrase misinterpreted by an eager internet. But what really fueled the behind-the-scenes whispers was the energy shift people swore they noticed after the segment ended. Posts appeared claiming the studio hallway looked tense, that producers seemed unusually rushed, and that conversations in the background grew quieter as the cast walked off set. Whether any of those observations were true didn't seem to matter. They only added to the mystery. The more people talked, the more dramatic the story became. Commentators online began playing detective, building timelines, comparing past interviews, and pointing out moments where Charlie Kirk or senior staff members had seemed unusually guarded. Even minor details, a sigh, a glance, a hesitant pause in old clips, were suddenly being reinterpreted through this new lens. The pastor's slip didn't expose a scandal. It exposed possibility. And for the gossip world, that's more than enough to ignite a frenzy. Inside TPUSA, no official statements echoed the stir, which only deepened the speculation outside. Silence, after all, always fuels curiosity. By the end of the day, the whispers weren't just whispers anymore. They had become a full-blown online narrative, powered by fans, critics, curious watchers, and anyone who loves a hint of behind-the-scenes drama. And all of it traced back to one unplanned moment, one unexpected sentence, one slip that the pastor probably wished he could rewind and swallow whole.
Why were there fucking pyrotechnics at his funeral before she spoke like it was some sort of WWE event, like it was some sort of fucking celebration? Why did she immediately come out and say, I'm going to take over Charlie's position at TPUSA? Don't you think that the overwhelming majority of people, especially if you're torn up psychologically and mentally, wouldn't you say, you know what, I'm going to step back from the spotlight. I'm going to have some time to mourn. I'm going to have some time to reflect. I'm going to have some time to rethink my life. I'm going to have some time to get my shit together since I just lost my fucking better half. No, she immediately jumped in and said, I'm going to take Charlie's position at TPUSA. Why are there videos that are all over social media, and they are, you can't deny it, of her crying, but it's 100% proven there are no tears. She's got the tissue, she's doing the thing, but then you zoom in, there's no tears. Why is that happening? You could yell at me for acknowledging reality, but I'm fucking acknowledging reality, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Why is she hopping in front of every camera? Why is it that she's putting herself front and center, but then getting mad when people
By the time the clip hit its first million views, the public fallout had already taken on a life of its own. What began as a tiny, barely noticeable slip on live TV had erupted into a full-blown online spectacle, with people from every corner of the political internet tossing their theories into the fire. Commentators on YouTube, X, and podcasts wasted no time diving into the moment frame by frame, treating it like a mini political earthquake. The slip wasn't just the viral clip anymore. It had become the spark that set off an avalanche of curiosity, debate, and, of course, drama. Supporters of Charlie Kirk rushed forward to downplay the moment, insisting it was nothing more than an innocent miscommunication. They argued the pastor had spoken too quickly, chosen the wrong phrasing, or simply misunderstood the question. On the opposite side, critics latched onto the clip like it was a treasure map, insisting it hinted at deeper tensions inside TPUSA. Suddenly, the internet was split into two camps, the ones brushing it off and the ones convinced this was a rare peek behind the polished exterior. Meanwhile, TPUSA itself maintained total silence, no statements, no clarifications, no attempts to put out the fire. And that silence only fueled the flames. People began treating the lack of response as a story in itself. Was the clip being discussed internally? Were they deciding how to handle the chatter? Or were they ignoring it entirely, hoping it would fade on its own? No one knew, and that uncertainty kept the conversation alive. Content creators started dropping videos with titles like, "What really happened on Charlie Kirk's show?" and "Did the pastor accidentally expose something?" Even though no one claimed anything definite, the possibility was enough to pull viewers in. After all, internet audiences love a mystery, especially one involving big personalities, leadership figures, and unexpected on-air tension. Erika's name resurfaced across comment sections, not because of confirmed information, but because people were replaying the pastor's tone and asking, was that about her? And whenever Erika's name enters a conversation, people start debating her influence, her strategic decisions, and her role within the organization. It wasn't that the pastor said anything specific, it was the way the public interpreted it, the way the moment felt. The TPUSA Chief of Staff wasn't spared either. Viewers began reading into every tiny detail, wondering if the slip hinted at internal disagreements, leadership friction, or simply miscommunication blown out of proportion. People online dissected their past public appearances, comparing them to the pastor's comment like amateur detectives building a case that didn't actually exist. It was speculation layered on top of speculation. Classic internet wildfire behavior. What made the fallout so intense was the pace. Within hours, hashtags were trending, reaction videos were multiplying, and people who hadn't even seen the original broadcast were chiming in based on secondhand summaries. The story grew legs, then wings, and suddenly it was everywhere. Despite no evidence of concrete drama, the internet treated the clip like a glimpse into something hidden, and nothing captivates audiences more than the idea of a slip revealing what scripted moments never would. The public fallout wasn't just about the words spoken. It was about the emotions people projected onto them, the tension they felt, and the thrill of connecting dots that might not even be connected. In the end, the pastor's slip didn't just stir conversation. It created a ripple effect that turned one awkward moment into an online phenomenon, leaving everyone watching to wonder what, if anything, the moment truly meant. The fallout from the pastor's slip isn't just a passing headline. It could mark a turning point in how both Charlie Kirk and TPUSA are perceived by their audiences and insiders alike. Charlie, known for his firm grip on conversations and tight control over his public image, now faces the challenge of managing a narrative that briefly slipped beyond his command. For someone who thrives on controlling the message, moments like this can be more than just embarrassing. They can chip away at that image of absolute confidence. Critics have already begun to question whether this on-air moment reveals cracks in the polished exterior that Kirk and his team work hard to maintain. Even supporters are left wondering, how often do things really go off script behind the scenes? How much tension exists beneath the carefully crafted public appearances? This slip, as minor as it may seem, opens the door to those questions in a way few other moments have. For TPUSA, the implications feel even more significant. The organization is built on projecting unity, strength, and clear leadership, but the pastor's accidental reveal hinted at underlying complexities, internal dynamics, and perhaps even conflicts that don't usually make it to the public eye. Whether the slip pointed to disagreements, shifting alliances, or pressure around key figures like Erika and the Chief of Staff, it raised awareness that the inner workings might be more complicated than the public narrative suggests. Erika's name being part of the speculation is especially notable. As someone involved in strategic decisions, any hint of tension connected to her role can raise questions about leadership stability and direction. The same goes for the Chief of Staff, a role central to managing the organization's operations and messaging. When whispers of internal dynamics surface, it naturally invites scrutiny and speculation about what's really happening at the top. This incident could encourage both fans and critics to watch future interviews and events more closely, looking for similar cracks or signs of disagreement. It might also pressure TPUSA's leadership to address the swirling rumors, either by offering clarity or by doubling down on their usual tightly controlled messaging. Most importantly, it shows how even the smallest slip in the digital age can explode into a narrative much bigger than anyone anticipated. In a world where live TV moments are dissected instantly and amplified endlessly, maintaining control over the story is more challenging than ever. For Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, this slip serves as a reminder. In today's media landscape, every word counts, and sometimes what's not said speaks just as loudly as what is. What started as just another live TV segment quickly turned into a viral moment no one saw coming. The pastor's slip not only exposed unexpected tension behind the scenes, but also sparked a wildfire of speculation about Erika, the TPUSA Chief of Staff, and the very future of the organization. Whether this was a minor misstep or a sign of deeper dynamics at play, one thing is clear. In the world of politics and media, every word matters, and sometimes the biggest stories come from the smallest slips. So what do you think? Was this just an innocent slip, or is there something bigger brewing behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insider updates, breaking moments, and all the gossip you won't want to miss. Stay tuned, because when the drama unfolds, we'll be right here bringing you every detail.